Venture 1 in 2019 down. Update on the Smith River and the trip right now. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for coming and watching today. If you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram right here. And again, thank you for being here. Pretty excited about this video today. Some mixed feelings about it a little bit. I've been really excited for a few months for it, and the trip was had its good points and its bad points. So we'll go through that. Before we start, I want to say a few things. One, I'm not a professional fishing guide. I've been rowing a boat for about 4 years, so I feel like I'm pretty good, but I'm not great. So stuff that I say in this video, for your safety's sake, before you go down the river, make sure you talk to a professional, an outfitter that goes on the river, a fly shop that's very familiar with it, a friend that's been doing it for years. Be safe. Smith River can be a little dangerous, but it's not dangerous. So just want to get that out of the way. A couple things about the river. When we got on, we had great weather the first 3 days for the most part. The days were 60 degrees, 55 to 60 degrees, and sunny or partly cloudy. We got a little wind, but it was really nice. The river, unfortunately, if you watch my preview video, you'll think that I thought the river was going to drop into perfect shape. Well, the river went the opposite direction. It actually shot up the morning we went on the river, about 300 CFS, and it was blown out, and then it was really blown out. So the river was moving, it was chocolate milk, and it was challenged. So the fishing was challenging. Caught fish the first day, but other than that, we used all of our tricks, and we just didn't catch a ton of fish. It was just tough fishing, and everybody out there was saying the same stuff. We had guides out there that were saying, we're just gonna power out of here. It's just not good fishing. So that made me feel better that I wasn't just a terrible fisherman. So not a lot of fish porn in this video, unfortunately, but we do have some good information. So I've switched how I'm gonna do this video. I'm gonna really focus on things that will help you if you're gonna go on the Smith or you're thinking about going on the Smith. Some stuff, some insight that I haven't seen around the internet, but I think will help you out a ton. I'm gonna dive into that now. First, I wanna talk about the camping. So the camping sites are all, for the most part, pretty good. We prefer, and I think most people prefer, no matter if you're going in the spring, summer, or the fall, it's nice to have some trees. So that was kind of a thing that we wanted to see. There are a few campsites that we motored by, we hadn't signed up for, but they weren't very good. They were in the open. They're right next to the river, and they're fine, but they just weren't our preference. So I would suggest you get a campsite with some trees, so you have some cover, whether it's for shade or from rain or whatever else. All the campsites have latrines. They're outdoor latrines. They're not super private, but you know, you're in the middle of Montana, so having a toilet at all is a plus. So take your toilet paper and whatever else you need, because there is latrines that they've been nice enough to put in, I think, over the last handful of years. The campsites are really, really nice though. They all have fire pits with this little grate thing that goes over them. So if you want to do a you know, caveman style steaks or whatever else, you can. We took a little barbecue, but really, really nice and really laid out well. The rangers go down fairly regularly just to kind of check on everything, and those guys were top-notch dudes there at Camp Baker. So take care of the stuff, but that's what's in the campsite. For the trip itself, since we were at 1700 CFS, it smoked by. We were doing 11, 12 miles a day, camp to camp, and we were trying to fish and back rowing and doing everything you're supposed to do. We were still doing it in 4 or 5 hours. So the water was just moving. On a lower water, you can see where you could be a little bit more methodical. You know, you want to stay on a pace, but it is, you know, it's very doable. So the Camp Baker Rangers help you a little bit with picking sites. They don't have preferences, so they'll say, you can ask them, what do you prefer? And they'll be like, well, let's look at the reviews of them or something. And these guys, they know, they manage all of them, and they feel good about all of them. And there's not a bad campsite, it's just a little bit of preference. One that I would suggest that we stayed at was Sunset Cliffs. It is beautiful, and I'll roll in a photo of it right now. It's this big, huge cliff that has red in it, and when the sun comes up, it shines right on it. It's really, really pretty. So there's 3 campsites there, upper, middle, and lower. You can't do wrong with any of them. We did the lower one, but it's a great spot, really pretty spot, good cover, kind of open. Yeah, if you can get that spot, I would suggest that one. Another thing that I'm a camper, but I'm not a huge camper, or like a tent camper. So for me, going 5 days without like a shower or something, you know, I'm fine doing it, but it's not preferable. So I figured out right before I went that Heaven on Earth, which is just about 29 miles down from Camp Baker, so you get there midday the 3rd day. Heaven on Earth is exceptional. They do showers. They have a shower for 15 bucks. You can take a shower, which by that point, it's worth every penny. They have ice cream sandwiches. They have these drinks. They have a little bar in their barn, which is really cool. The owner's a really good dude. There was a gal working there when I went through too. She was exceptional as well. Can't recommend them enough. If, like some people, you could take a break from 4 nights camping in a campsite with a tent, there is the option of maybe your second, but probably your 3rd night staying there. He has kind of a bed and breakfast cabin situation. He makes a heck of a dinner. You could stay in a cabin, take a shower, sleep in a bed, wake up and have breakfast, and then continue on down the river. So it's an option. If you're with an outfitter, they're probably not gonna wanna do that, but if you pull a permit and you're doing your own thing, it's something to look at. You know, it's kind of worth it at that point. So think about that, call them and talk to them. They've been on, their family has owned the ranch there on the Smith for years, 100 years, 120 years, something like that. So they know the Smith really well. And again, they're really, really good people there. So definitely another option. Again, I apologize. I took a lot of photos and a lot of video, but with the river being big and muddy, they just didn't come out very well. And you know, you've probably seen 100 photos already of the Smith River flowing down and the big cliffs, and you know, so I didn't really edit up and do a lot with the photos because they just didn't turn out well, which disappointed me. I was hoping to have a little bit clearer water or lower water so I could get some better video and photography, but I just didn't. So I'll be rolling in here some stuff that we took, mostly us in our camps, but yeah, not that type of video, more of an informational video, because the trip was more of a camping trip than a fishing trip, unfortunately. So funny story, and this goes back to what people have told me about the Smith River. You're usually, well, I shouldn't say usually, but people say you're usually on your 5-day trip, you're gonna at least get 1 day of bad weather. We got an evening of bad weather. So we left Heaven on Earth. We floated down another 7 miles to our campsite. Right when we took out, we literally stepped out of the boat and it became a torrential downpour. So we were trying to get some sort of tarp up to keep us dry. We were trying to get a fire started. It was a heck of a time for about an hour and a half there, but we did, and here's a photo of that. We persisted and got our tarp up. We got a great fire going using fat wood, and highly suggest keeping some fat wood in your bag. And it turned out fine. We got camp up. It didn't rain overnight, so it was great. And we powered out the next day because we knew that snow was coming the day after. So we did about 22 miles the last day just to get out of there, and with the river flowing like it was, no big deal. Down low, if you look at maps, and I'll flow in a little footage here of the map, down low, I think it's about the 40-mile marker, somewhere in there. There are what they consider 3 rapids, quote unquote. What they are is the first 2 are kind of rock fields that you kind of have to wade through a little bit. The path through them is really obvious. In high water, we literally bounced over all the rocks, no issue whatsoever. In lower water, I can see where you're just gonna have to, you know, line up and row yourself through, but not a big deal. The last rapid is the one that's you know, it would be considered a rapid. We didn't even go over the rapid part. The water was so high we kind of skirted around it. But in lower water, you probably have to go over it. It's a few big rocks. There's probably a path there to not even have to go squarely over the rocks, but you'll be fine. Just keep pointed north-south on the river and pop your way over them and you should be fine. So I wouldn't let those stress you out too much. If you're a little inexperienced or no experience at all, or even if you're experienced, it's worth pulling over and maybe scouting real quick too. It only takes a second. They're not very long. They're literally 50 yards at the most long. So pretty short, not a big issue. In fact, the last one's probably shorter than that. It's probably about 30 yards. So I'll wrap up again what I started with. I would encourage anyone to take this trip. Again, the fishing was terrible, and that's 90% of the reason that I went on the trip, but it was still just a ton of fun. This place is majestic. It's like going down the Grand Canyon. I mean, it's not as big as the Grand Canyon, but it's like that. It just has that different feel to it. If you've never done it, do it. I would suggest if you have the means to get with an outfitter and have an outfitter take you down the river. These guys know what they're doing. The 7 designated outfitters for the Smith River have been doing it a long time. I live here in Missoula, and so the 2 guys that I know and I trust are John Herzer at Blackfoot River Outfitters. I'll link to them below. John and his brother Kurt are as good as it gets, hands down, for guides in Montana and the Smith River. They've been guiding it for 30 years. You'll have an exceptional experience, guaranteed. They're good dudes, no matter if it's bad weather, bad fishing, good fishing, they're gonna get you on fish. You're gonna have a good time at camp, good dudes. So link below. The other is Joe Sowerby. Joe is a great guy too. He's a Montana guy. He's been guiding the Smith for 30 years. I suggest Joe, really good dude. I'll link to him below as well. If you have the means, I would do it that way. It's a lot more work to pack your stuff up and unpack it and all the stuff that goes with it. If you're gonna go out there to just enjoy the scenery and fish and enjoy the Smith River, get a guide, get an outfitter to do it with you. The other 5 I don't know as well, but I will link to the page on the Fish and Wildlife page here so that you can see who those are as well. So a few in Bozeman and one in Helena, I think. Anyways, you'll see them there. So I'm sure they're all great. You don't keep your outfitter license unless you're pretty good at what you do and you catch fish and you have a good experience. So I would not hesitate with any of them, but personally, just because I know them and I can tell you 100% will have a good experience, John Herzer at Blackfoot River Outfitters or Joe Sowerby. So be careful. And this is what I'll wrap up with. Be careful. The Smith is not known for being a big rapids, deadly river, but it's also a river that you can get a little lazy and stuff can happen. We had one small incident with our group that we were playing around a little too much and we got in a little bit of a spot, and it was probably not as close as we thought it was, but that made us stop goofing around. So don't goof around. The Smith it's not a big river, but it's got its dangers as well. So as long as you have a little bit of experience and keep yourself off of rocks and don't flip your boat and don't get in the water unless you want to, you'll be just fine. So final piece, if you can't see the disappointment in the fishing on my face, I'm hiding it well because it was a bummer. I think maybe a better fisherman than I am maybe would have caught some more fish, but like I say, nobody was having good days out there, and so it was just a challenge. Watch your flows, and if you have a permit, just be ready. Have lots of different fishing options and make sure that you're ready for your camping as well. So I'm gonna wrap this up. It's getting a little long. Sorry I didn't have more fish porn for you. I wish I did. And sorry I didn't have more photography for you, but it just wasn't good for it. And but I do have some B-roll I've flowed in, and it is what it is. It was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. Good friends. We drank beer and sodas and waters and campfires and told stories and had a good time. So good people out there too. Everybody was very nice and waves and talks and everything else. So it's a good community on the Smith River. Get out there and do it if you got a permit. If you don't, put in for a permit next year and do it every year until you get one. I promise you will not regret it. And if you have the means, don't even worry about any of it. Call up one of these outfitters and just go with them. Very, very good way to doing it in a way that I would actually love to do it. And I may do it one day actually, so I can go out there and fish and take pictures and not have to worry about anything. So thanks again. One more shout out to please subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up here this summer. Some archery tournaments I'm going to. We've got elk hunting season coming up. A lot of fishing trips coming up. A ton of fishing trips coming up. A lot of outdoor stuff. I'm working on my lawn, so we're gonna have some lawn care stuff, just some simple lawn guy stuff. I still have my cooking series going, and so you'll see some cooking videos popping up. So please subscribe, ring the bell so you know when our videos come up, and like these videos because it helps it with boosting out there. Thanks again, thanks for following, thanks for watching, and until next time.